Good morning, and welcome to Flight Simulator version 1.13.16.0, otherwise known as the European Update. Now, obviously, I'm still flying in the United States. I'm not over at Europe. That's a separate video. I have not actually gone over there and taken a look at that content just yet. What I was hoping to see was some more fixes to the game itself. I know they called out some adjustments to virtual reality, and again, that'll be a separate video. What I wanted to look at first in this was how, if at all, autopilot and flight has improved or not. Now, I'd done this flight 3 times already, flying from Salt Lake to Las Vegas. I was trying to do a multiplayer flight with my nephew the other night. I didn't last more than 5 minutes, and that's start to finish, from creating the flight to dying in the ground. What was happening was, as soon as I would engage autopilot, it would go berserk, and it crashed me every single time. I could not figure out what was going on. 3 times in a row, it killed me, and I have no idea what happened. So while I'm configuring my autopilot for this flight, try number 4, let's take a look at a screenshot I captured. You can see vaguely the Salt Lake City lights there. I'm over the lake, heading back, and obviously autopilot has turned the plane 90 degrees on its side, and it continued to roll and pitch over, and well, you can guess the rest. I smashed headfirst into the ground and died. The second time, it did an actual barrel roll and crashed into the ground. The third time, it just stalled and crashed. It's just insane what it's doing. Now, this flight's going to be a little funky. Because I was worried about stalling after just having done that one, I decided that I would force the plane to stay on the ground a little longer, gain some more airspeed before I lifted off, so that I would have a better chance of being able to cut the flaps, get the gear up, and fly a little bit before everything kind of happens. You can see it started naturally lifting off, and then the plane just immediately starts rolling and drifting, and I have very little control again of what the plane's doing. So I grab autopilot, and it's kind of hard to see, but you can see the purple on the HUD were angling me to the left, yet the plane was actually banking to the right, and then it slowly cut over, and everything you see is the plane flying itself. I have a very low rate of climb just to keep throttle up, airspeed up, and just a nice steady bank. And just look at how hard the plane is rocking. No way would this be at all how an autopilot handles itself in any sort of environment. Alright, so let's kick the speed up, and you can watch it rock and bounce. It gets a little stable for a moment, and then it kicks off and gets worse. And then it just kind of goes nuts and banks, and it's just absurd what it does. You come outside the plane, you can see kind of the same situation. You might catch a hint of what it's doing in there, and it's very related to previous videos that I've done. So I'll let it complete the bank, and then we'll kind of fly on the straightaway and discuss again what is now happening in this aircraft that had not been happening previously. So I'm able to look around, have some fun. You can see that the plane's sort of following the purple. It's again a little hard to see, but there's times where the purple adjusts itself and the plane just kind of bounces around to do its own thing. Wind, again, weather is not applying properly, and a whole slew of other fun things that just don't seem to happen. So you get the idea. It's all kind of stuff that I've talked about previously, and you can just see how it's still banking. But if you notice now, the plane's not actually turning. I'm basically flying straight, even though the plane is rolled at a 45-degree angle almost. You can see the ailerons on the side are trying to turn me to the right. Oh, but you can see the rudder there is angled hard left. Interesting. Let's take another look at that. Wow, look at that rudder. The ailerons don't need to do much because they're on the edge of the wings, and there's some spoilers and slats that will help the plane roll, but wow. Now what I'm going to try to do is manually correct this. So I'm going to undo the rudder's hard left run and let the plane balance out, and you can see how quickly it rolls back to stable and the plane starts to turn and move as we fly over the Kennecott copper mine. However, you can also see that the rudder continually fights me, so I have to continue to engage, disengage the control to try and keep it flying straight, which is just insane. The game itself doesn't have proper rudder controls. I haven't really focused too much on this until the last couple of videos, but the rudder itself does not actually work in the game. The rudder basically turns the plane and rolls it, so they have kind of an auto rudder that's in the game, and I have not yet dug far enough through the menus to see if there's a way to turn off any sort of rudder assist. I don't have it enabled for takeoff. That's why my plane kind of moves across the ground with props and other stuff, but if there's a way to disable that, that'd be great. But basically, the rudder is how the autopilot is controlling the airplane, and to a degree, the autopilot would use the rudder, of course. Now I'm just going crazy trying to get it the other way. But it would also use the ailerons and everything else on the elevators and all that stuff. So I'm not sure exactly why the system thinks it needs to fight itself, because the autopilot is literally using the rudder to go hard left, but then it has to counter that with the ailerons. So the system is sitting there fighting itself for absolutely no reason. You can see this is all autopilot again, and now you can see how hard I'm starting to bank, even to the point where the plane's starting to turn the wrong direction, and my airspeed's all kind of messed up. I was able to get this to kind of fix by just telling autopilot to go to hell, straightening out the plane so that I could get a little more lined up, and then re-engaging the autopilot. This worked to a degree. You can see the plane's a little more stable, but you can see it immediately starts to roll again to the left. Now, why is it doing this? Because the way the autopilot tries to fly the plane, it can't actually get the plane to angle towards my waypoint and my nav line. So the plane continues to try and turn to the left, while at the same time counter the roll and level out, because the plane knows it doesn't need to be turning at that degree. So it's, again, fighting itself. And it never actually gets online. If you actually get the plane to be on the nav line, then it's not that big of a deal. But that's the only way to fix it, is to manually do this. Now, my nephew completed his flight. He didn't have the same issues and the same flight controls. He has a joystick. His rudder at all doesn't work properly, so when he gets in, he basically loses all rudder control. However, his autopilot did not work at all with ILS, and it wouldn't bring him into the right runway. Oh, look, a new graphical glitch. That's interesting. Now, this could be because I'm now fully running off of Windows 10 exclusively, but I didn't have this issue before, so interesting. Now I'm in the game with my pilot. Nice new issue. Anyway, that was easy to correct by zooming in, but you can see that the game just keeps getting worse and worse. Plane that never had the same issue is now having worse problems and all that good stuff. So, again, as I say with every video thus far, I keep my fingers crossed that they'll fix these things, but I still cannot recommend anybody willfully give money to these folks. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.